We shall be known by the company we keep, by the ones who circle round. Hi there, my name is Susie Englehart, and I want to welcome you to the Unreasonably Grateful podcast, Living in Grace by Choice. So, first of all, welcome. Welcome if you're here for the first time. Welcome if you're returning for the, I don't know what it is now, 350th time. Wherever you are, I'm so grateful that you're here right now. What we do on this podcast is we kind of hold hands. We walk together through our experiences of life, and we utilize all the things that happen in our day-to-day world as an opportunity to become the best version of ourselves, that version that we were created to be, where all those divine qualities that we all have rise to the surface. And that's actually what we live from, rather than from our defenses, our justifications, our criticisms, our judgments, whatever else might be sort of directing the show called our life. So grateful to have you. Just a reminder, I don't have your answers. I'm simply sharing tidbits of wisdom I've gleaned and continue to glean from my 40 years of recovering from living with an addiction. I was anorexic and bulimic and a survivor of teenage sexual abuse. And so I'm just sharing what I've learned in these 40 years of pulling my life back together and directing it more towards the life and the being I was created to be. So let's see here. I'm so grateful to be sharing this opportunity with you. Okay, so this particular episode is called it's humility, like the lesson, the ultimate lesson, the vital lesson of humility. And, as I've shared over the past month or so, as I work with my sister, we live together. She moved here from Tennessee once she got a diagnosis of a cancer and is here for her healing, for her recovery. And hopefully one day she'll be able to return to her home and live out healthy years long after these. So in the meantime, we're navigating chemotherapy. And I got to thinking this week, I happen to have been around when both my mother and my father passed. And I don't think I'd ever seen it this way until most recently I was experiencing something similar with my sister. And I think that humility or being humble isn't a popular quality today. It's somehow something that we think or relate to as being weak. And I think that's a mistake. I actually think humility or being humble is one of the greatest strengths there is. And it's just misrepresented. And what I mean by that is, as I watched my parents both get closer and closer to the end of their life, I watched them become humble people. My father had a lot of humility. I'd say it was more natural for him. It was definitely difficult and more of a challenge for my mother. My mother was more attached. She was more attached to things. She had a strong personality. My father, less attached. Now, he'd also been through a lot of things my mom hadn't been through. My father was in the military, fought in the Pacific during World War II. He was a seaplane pilot and rescued people. And so I think his experiences and just who he was led him to be a pretty humble person. And still, we all have to let go of everything at the end of our life. My mother, who was more attached, had a more difficult time. But ultimately, she too had to let go of everything. Well, as I watch my sister navigate moving here, being in a different environment, having lived alone for a really long time, and then navigating chemotherapy and being a part of the medical world after a lifetime of hardly ever even needing or visiting a doctor, I just see the softening that's happening as she becomes more and more humble. And I think it's necessary. I think it's necessary for all of us. I'm actually thinking we should prepare in advance. We should prepare ahead of time. Um, and so I want to encourage us to do that because we all know that that's coming. But I'm suggesting being humble earlier in life is also a gift, a beautiful quality, something we could embrace as opposed to resist. Certainly, it's not a weakness. I would say instead, it's a strength. The ability to step down, step aside, um, let go. Yeah, there's so many ways it shows up in our attachments, in our opinions, um, in our desires, in the choices that we make. And so this week, let's all practice. Let's begin now, ahead of time. Let's all practice being more humble, practice that quality of humility, which I believe brings in an amazing state of peace, draws us closer to experiencing grace. Um, you all know that Jesus is um, who I follow, and Jesus was a master of humility, of being able to let go and elevate who he served and elevate the people around him. And so this week, let's you and I take on really looking for opportunities where we could be more humble, practice the art of humility. And one of the ways that may show up is when you notice that you're tensing up or you're fighting for something, that your defense mechanisms are kind of aroused and up. And that's probably the perfect place for you to practice stepping down, lowering yourself, bowing to humility, letting yourself release your attachments and instead let sort of that gentle breeze of peace and grace guide you instead. Okay? So let's take that on this week. Look for opportunities to do that and see what you shows up in place for you. And I imagine you will have a much more peaceful week. I'll be here next week, and I can't wait to see you then. Here's to practicing the art of being humble. Have a great week.